Hello, my name is Anita Posch and this is the Bitcoin for Fairness series of the Anita Posch Show. In this show, we talk about the role Bitcoin plays in enabling economic empowerment for individuals and communities by providing fair and open access to a global financial network. My guest today is Esteban de la Peña, founding partner at IBEXmercado, a Bitcoin brokerage and payment service provider in Guatemala. Hello to the team. I met some of you in El Salvador, where IBEXmercado is building Bitcoin infrastructure for businesses. As always, you can watch this interview on YouTube or you can listen to it in a podcast app. I recommend you'll try one of the Lightning-enabled podcast apps like the Breeze Tech Wallet or the Sphinx Chat app. A big thank you goes out to the Human Rights Foundation and Leden.io for sponsoring the Bitcoin for Fairness initiative. And now, a short word from my sponsors and then on to the show. Enjoy!
Living on crypto is easier than you think with Bitrefill. Choose from over 4,000 gift cards and mobile top-up options from around the world. I used Bitrefill to top up my phone when I was visiting Zimbabwe. It was easy, worked like a charm, and I even earned sats back. Pay with Bitcoin, Lightning, Ethereum, Dash, Tether over Tron, and many more options. No account is necessary. Join the thousands of users around the world who are living on crypto today using Bitrefill. Join now at bitrefill.com and start earning sats back with each purchase. That's bitrefill.com.
Learn Bitcoin will teach you the why and how to use Bitcoin. Anita is one of the preeminent Bitcoin educators. Her book represents an invaluable contribution to the Bitcoin knowledge. Nick Carter, partner, Castle Island Ventures. Order your copy now at learnbitcoin.link. That's learnbitcoin.link.
Did you know that leaving your keys on centralized exchanges is extremely risky? Not only are you giving up your privacy, but you also give up total control of your funds. The best time to take back control is now. Go to sovryn.app and never again ask for permission to use your money. That's sovryn.app. Hello, Esteban de la Peña. Welcome to the Anita Posch Show.
Hi, Anita. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure being here. It's a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you very much. I didn't know that. That's even more nice to meet you than here online in this interview. So, Esteban, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
So my name is Esteban. I am the Chief Business Development Officer at IBEXmercado. In Ibex, what we do is we're a Bitcoin services company based in Guatemala, and we started back in 2018. And 2019 is really when it grabbed traction, our Bitcoin brokerage service. And now we've evolved a lot throughout the opportunity that El Salvador gave us. And I'm excited to be in this space. I've been a Bitcoiner since quite some time now. Since 2014 is when I came in. It's been a journey, you know. I started Bitcoin, did all the other alt stuff, came back to Bitcoin, and it's been an interesting journey from there of how to learn, and it's just always impressive. It never ends.
It's a classic, discovering Bitcoin, going to altcoins and back to Bitcoin. What were the reasons? Why did you go back to Bitcoin only?
Well, you notice at one point that's the only thing that really works. Everything else is just noise.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that takes some time to notice that, yeah. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people who are really just in for the money and they don't care. They go to crypto.com and just play around and are happy when they make a little bit of money. But, you know, in the end, I think it's not sustainable in the future as really projects or blockchains that really change the world in a way as Bitcoin will do.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the biggest articles or blog posts that really changed my position in there and helped me digest all this was actually the Gigi with Bitcoin is Time. And you do notice at one point that you're exchanging the only real limited thing you have in life, which is your time, for something unlimited. And that's when you change to the Bitcoin standard. And then you start noticing that all the other things are really just, working on a platform to get you more fiat. And I don't think that's the whole point of it, right? Being here in I think in Guatemala and having grown up in Germany gave me a different perspective in things, and it helped me understand that for this region, Bitcoin is extremely important, and it's really a necessity more than a luxury.
Yeah, I mean, you're just talking about these differences, which are very interesting, as you say, because you were born and raised in Germany. So what would you say are the biggest differences? What are the biggest problems for people in Guatemala?
Well, the difference for Latin Americans to really understand this is they believe, like many other things that has happened in history, or pretty much every other technology that has arrived to Guatemala, for Guatemalans and Latin Americans is like, that's a first world thing. It has to first hit there before it's actually useful here. And for the first time, it really is different for us. It's more important for us to understand this first and lead in this aspect. And that is one of the exciting things of El Salvador, be it what it may on the political side, but it's just on the technological side, what the Pandora's box is open and there's no way to close it, right? So it's just interesting to watch it from the side and being able, to actively participate in it as well.
Mm-hmm. What would you say are the daily problems of people in Guatemala or El Salvador with their money?
There's not enough. Simple as that.
It's never enough, yeah. But of course, it's much less than we have here in European countries, yeah.
Yeah, and this is, it's a real fight and for survival. And I think it's difficult to relate if you've never been in that position, because it's a very uncomfortable one, and I wouldn't wish it to anybody. And bear in mind, I'm speaking here from a position of privilege, and I'm very, very aware of that. But exactly because of that, the reason I came into this back in 2014 was I co-founded a fintech, and we wanted to do like the PayPal for Guatemala in that point in time. And I started understanding and go, deep into the causation and how to relieve financial inclusion. And I understood that it's just a business model problem. Like, there's no reason for a bank to really push financial inclusion, because the bank needs money for its business model, and push in a place where there's no money, and that's exactly the lack thereof is the issue. It's just not the correct balance, right? And then, they have their own challenges as institutions, as, just very normal challenges. They're a business as any other business. And then I noticed Bitcoin. I read about it, and it took me a while to understand it as deeply as I do now. But in that point in time, it was just, the experience was very uncomfortable. I had to wire some money to Japan to buy Bitcoin. It was a whole 3 months experience where you didn't know where your money was, and you were staring at this screen on your phone just to see a little magic number pop up, but you didn't know if it would or not. And it was horrible. But still, then, just the idea of this digital cash and peer-to-peer exchange of value really came to like, it exploded my mind. This is what you need for real financial inclusion. It's the only way to get it. If you don't have an intermediary, and it's all out of necessity that it pushes itself. And that's the interesting part of Bitcoin, and going back to the point before of why I also started to focus only on Bitcoin is to add value to a network. It's very difficult. It's not only about users or programmers or nodes. Even it's really about the fact that every person or every element that comes into the network actually adds value to it. And that's the interesting part with Bitcoin, because every user that comes in and understands it adds value to this network, real value, real volume, real conviction and understanding. And the interesting part is exactly that you can come from two different perspectives: Bitcoin as an asset, or Bitcoin as a monetary rail, which is what El Salvador is bringing out. So yeah, it's I could keep on going into this, but
Yeah, do
I
it,
think
do it. There's no
think
halt.
okay. I think that's why it really is a necessity here. But the problem is, and what challenges me most is understanding this part, and also understanding that exactly the people that need it most are the people that are more difficult to reach. On a practical side, on an educational side, on a regulatory side, for example, as Ibex, as partners, we have this very clear, but we're not able to receive cash. So, and we cannot receive cash because then we put the whole operation in at risk. So at one point, I'm sure we're going to be able to manage this. Abra, for example, who's also here in Guatemala, they've managed a solution. I'm very proud of that. So they're pushing those type of limits, and I'm sure we're going to get there at some point. But it's just not as straightforward. So I think as long as you grow in general, at one point it does reach all the people. And the most interesting part is the monetary and the collateral side. When we disassociate the need to have a financial track record to achieve or to get better financial tools. And that's going to be a super drive, I think, when they understand that they can use their Bitcoin as a collateral. So that's what I see in the future.
Yeah, definitely. But what I didn't understand now, you said IBEXmercado cannot receive cash. Or what I did? What do you mean by that? You can't receive cash. You only hold Bitcoin, or?
No, you can only transact with us on a traditional financial level, like an bank transfer, or
Okay.
or with a check, which we still have checks, but that's like a bank transfer on a piece of paper. But nobody can go like into the bank and deposit us like a big chunk of cash into the account, because then everything, or even just a little amount, even 100 quetzales or 200.
Is this because of KYC regulations?
Yeah, and the bank regulations.
Okay, and I guess that was also one of the reasons that you saw Bitcoin makes a huge sense when you started your first fintech company in Germany, right?
Yeah, no, the fintech company started here in Guatemala. It wasn't Guatemala.
Ah, sorry, yeah.
It was in Guatemala. Yeah, that's I think one of the main reasons, right? Because I started understanding the complexity in going to this type of markets. You need a lot of people, a lot of like brick and mortar infrastructure, which makes it super lazy, super expensive. And then at the end, obviously, the interest rates for the credit for the loans are super high, and the collateral that needs to be used is just very privileged, right? You need to have a piece of land, you need to have some type of steady income, and that's the only way that you get a collateral to give out a loan. So,
so you also can't like found a startup very easily, because if you don't have property or any other assets, then you won't get it. And as you said before, those credit lines, like how's it called? When they estimate if you're worth a loan, they have long financial track records of you, right? The banks. But with Bitcoin, you just have to present it. You have the asset, and there is no history needed in that sense, which makes it, again, more fair than the current system.
Exactly. And it's all just about understanding. So that's, I think, the power of the idea behind this is just unmeasurable, because the person just needs to understand that you need to save in Bitcoin. And at one point, you'll be able to have a better collateral. and you're definitely going to be there faster in Bitcoin than, saving up for a piece of land, right?
Yeah. And that's why I always say it's not about investing. I always hear invest. That's not the right term in my opinion. It's saving. We just save in Bitcoin and that's it. And because investing sounds so sophisticated too. I mean, you don't need to be an investor in that way. Yeah.
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 And I think that's also its biggest challenge, right? It's just because it's so simple for people to understand that it's really that simple.
Yeah, it's funny because on the one hand, it's really simple. And on the other hand, it's very complex if you want to understand it. But I mean, the general person doesn't need to understand how it really works. And I think in the future, most people, it's like sending an email. You don't know the protocols that are used to send an email or which networks, you just do it. And I guess this will be the same with Bitcoin in a few years.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you live it and you have the full experience, the advantage is if you go deeper into the rabbit hole, you'll gain more conviction. And with that, your saving will, represent a bigger or more important part in your life, but it's up to you, right? And it's the thing it's time that takes you there. Like it's everybody has their own journey. That's why it's so interesting, because there's no way you can push this. It just it'll happen whatever happens, right?
Yeah. So Guatemala is it a big country? I think you have 18 million inhabitants.
We're the biggest in Central America, yeah.
Oh, the biggest, but then it doesn't have a high density of population density, right? When it's the biggest and with 18 million?
Yes, good Latin American countries. We're all very urban focused. So you have like one big city, and that's where everybody is. And in the countryside, it's very dispersed. But it's growing, and I think it's definitely growing. You have more urban centers growing. I can see also more investment growing. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but you have nicer malls in other towns, like the capital cities of the departments of the states. So it's growing. It's growing. The interesting part of Guatemala, what has always pushed it, is that we produce a lot. We are definitely one of the bigger producers. The industry is very strong here. Agro industry is very strong, and it has its positive and its negative sides. But from difference, from many other countries, like let's say Nicaragua or Honduras, where they have a lot of corruption. Nicaragua, especially, I mean that the government is completely corrupt and taking over the full-on dictatorship there with Ortega. They don't produce that much. Our industry has generationally been very strong, so the government has been kind of been able to be kept in a little box kind of thing, because there's a lot of money moving around here. So the industry has a very strong hand on politics, although they're losing it, because at the end what it becomes is a war of capital, right? And all the drug money is just a lot of money, and they're slowly eating up in the government and taking positions and so I mean, corruption here is a thing. It's a thing, but it's still one of the countries where you can freely produce, sell your goods, and create generational wealth. It works in a way. Obviously, it's very segmented, right? But in general, you still have that dream. You can go from 0 to 100 in Guatemala. I think that's one of the things that drive this industry.
I've seen some numbers, like in 2014, I didn't find more recent ones, but in 2014, only 30% of Guatemalans had access to a financial account. And the trading volume on local Bitcoins and Paxful, the peer-to-peer platforms, increased 22% from 2020 to 21, which is actually huge, isn't it?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that one. You really that's super nice to hear. Yeah, in in general, when I did the whole fintech and I looked at the numbers, 60% were unbanked. We could say maybe 50% now or maybe less, I don't know. But it's definitely a lot of people that are unbanked. And what it generates is this difficulty for the informal economy to integrate into the formal economy. And it also hinders you to grow, although I'm not a big proponent of government, but in general, right, if you don't pay taxes, then streets are not being built and all that type of stuff. And because the informal economy is so strong, if you never push it to the formal one, you'll never get all this benefit. So we have a beautiful country, but it's really running just in 40% of its power. Let's put it this way.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah. Yeah, because now you were talking about formal and informal businesses. What I learned in El Salvador, because I mean, I'm European, I don't know what's going on there, to be honest. But what I've learned is that it's actually easier for the informal businesses to use Bitcoin because they only have to install a wallet on their phone and they can receive Bitcoin. But the businesses who pay tax already and maybe even have other digital payment methods like credit cards and things like that to accept money from their customers, for them it's totally difficult because first, they don't know what Bitcoin is. In El Salvador, there's no education, there's no infrastructure. Where do you buy a hardware wallet in El Salvador? Yeah, so those businesses have the bigger trouble, I think, because the clients or like Bitcoin tourists like us come and say, "Hey, can I pay with Bitcoin?" And they don't know how to implement that. Yeah, so that's interesting actually, and but as you say, yeah, getting them from informal to non-informal.
It is, and I think you mentioned a very important part because it is a strong juxtaposition, right? For the informal one, it's easier to accept because they just have to download a wallet, but it's more difficult to understand because of their educational level, right? And their necessities. So for them, it's super abstract in a sense that they've only grown and been used to the tactile part of money. The formal has this regulatory issues, but there I think the adoption curve has grown exactly because of the service we brought up. That it's called Ibex Pay, so that allows you to receive Bitcoin payments, and it gives you a nice Excel sheet so your accountant is happy, and we do all that thing. So we've seen a lot of growth there because it's easier for them to understand. You just explain it as a new, channel to receive money, and then most of our customers hold dollars then in their account because that's the service that we do. So it's an interesting position because then somebody has to explain to them here. And I think there's way more value for the informal economy to adopt Bitcoin. Let me be clear on that, because the effect is going to be super strong. But who is going to invest in education? Who is going to invest, in all this one-to-one that you have to go one person to one person? It's a lot of like ant work that you have to do, a lot of communal work that is not necessarily, appreciated in all, because you do like get into this awkward situations where then they feel they're being pushed into something that will take something out of them, or the whole savior complex that you have at some point, that and they want to protect themselves from that, which is very fair because historically society hasn't been good to the bottom of the pyramid. So yeah, it's an interesting aspect of the dynamics of what's going on. It's what just for me like blows my mind. It's that it's already working. Like it really is in motion. Back in 2014, it wasn't. 2015, 16, it just wasn't there, right? And now, since the El Salvador Bitcoin law, it really brought it into motion, and you can see the wheels are turning, and people are calling you more often and asking you about, the thing you talked to me about 2015. I've seen the price, or just different experiences. So it's interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. It's also interesting to hear from you that you get more feedback, like from people outside the company or from businesses who need your service. What do you in general think or say about what's your opinion on the Bitcoin wallet, the Chivo wallet in El Salvador? And without going into politics, because we don't talk about politics, but I mean, not your keys, not your coins is the first sentence, the most important thing in Bitcoin. And this is not happening in the Chivo wallet. What's your opinion?
Well, we're a big proponent of self-custody, and I think it's super important for you to do it. That's the whole point of this. And it's just a 5-minute conversation for you to really start understanding it, right? And it's fairly simple to do. You just have to accept the responsibility and then take the necessary steps. The Chivo, I think really the Bitcoin law is so great done. It's 14 articles, super simple. It's there. The implementation guidelines is where it really came and made it more difficult to do, because they had this strong influence from IMF, I think, and they viewed the Bitcoin network just like a digital payment network, like credit cards. So they were asking for things that on a protocol level they were not possible. For example, cashbacks or returns. It's just on a protocol level, it's not possible, right? You send your Bitcoin, that's it. So I think he saw like a cheeky way to grab those guidelines, grab the law, and take out this Chivo, what it is. It has good sides in the aspect that it has created or banking opportunities for a lot of people that didn't have it, but it's definitely for me a negative on the side that it's just a big black box. Nobody knows what's going in there. Nobody knows if it's really backed or not, how many dollars are there, how much Bitcoin is there. Nobody can audit this humongous animal that he's created, and for me that is just super dangerous, right? But again, it's having lived in Germany and having lived here, there's also a very important point that you need to understand, where I think there's a big difference. El Salvador's political situation is very unique, and I know it's very easy to throw in the word dictator and a little mini dictator, but the fact is that Congress is so corrupt here that if you don't have that strong hand, this would never happen, right? So then again, so where do you go? It's never clear. I think what I've learned here is that it's never, you have a clear path and it works. I think here things kind of move and adapt themselves to the local necessities. And the fact is that Bitcoin is this little Trojan horse of liberty, and it's already in there. So whatever happens with him, the seed is planted and there's no way back, right? And the Bitcoin law is very well made. So yes, I'm not a big fan. I'm definitely not a fan of Chivo. I think he has a lot of mistakes there, but effectively, and I have to give it to him, he has done a good environment for competition. Like, it is open. You can go there and set your company. Our company was set up in very quick. We have a registration from the central bank in El Salvador and everything, and that process went flawless. Like, it went through in a week. That's like a dream time in Latin America. Like, it just doesn't happen,
Everywhere, dream time.
Yeah. So it has its things. I think for us, at least for us as Bitcoiners and Ibex, is just push as much as you can and take advantage of Bitcoin, of what it is and represents and its values, and I'm sure something good will come out of it.
Yeah, and maybe just use another wallet, an open source wallet.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Don't hold your Bitcoin too. That's for sure.
So I know that IBEXmercado, that you have worked on, not on the Chivo wallet, but on the ecosystem, right? Or not?
Yes, we manage the Lightning channels. We're not doing that anymore. and we did manage the Lightning channels for some months. Now they're doing it themselves for obvious reasons, but it was interesting to watch. We did watch, the 0 to 100. It was impressive how the technology scaled. Within 3 months, we were already at 10,000 transactions daily. And those are numbers that no other platform would be able to scale at this speed, right? And the interesting part of that was also that over, I would say, 60% of it was transactions under $10. So that's more, it's closer to the reality of the migrant, right? That he is able to do this micro remittances immediately in that instant, send $2, $2.50, $5, which in Western Union is impossible. Usually what they would do is they would save for a whole week and then send $50 or $100, right? So either they did it every week or every 2 weeks or every month, but they always had to save and then send. And from those $50, I do know that around 40 is what came out. So $10 was the cost of the transaction, which is super high, right? It's 25%, almost 25% of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And now you can send $2.50 to almost zero cost. And actually, if you do it through the Chivo ATMs, at zero cost. So I think that will have a big effect. And I lived it, myself as well. I went to a restaurant here in Guatemala. I had actually this sticker, and I wanted to stick it. They had a place with stickers, and the manager of the restaurant came like, "Oh yeah, but what's the sticker? Explain it to me." And I told him, "Yeah, we're a company, a Bitcoin services company." And she just made a face of like, I don't really want to know about this. But then the cook came in, and he was from El Salvador, and he said, "Look, I'm from El Salvador. Yeah, the Bitcoin law came through. It's a super interesting." And then the whole just environment changed. And I was able to do, the Bitcoin speech and everything, and they put the sticker, it's still there. And, they actually, went into it and took action. So it's impressive. I'm sure that will be happening at a bigger scale over time. And it'll have an exponential effect, which we're still so early on that we're not seeing it. But we are seeing it, but not at the exponential scale. We're right now just picking up the curve, right?
How did you know that it were 10,000 transactions? Because Lightning transactions in payment channels, you don't know how many transactions or payments there are.
Oh yeah, if you run the channels, we ran the channels, right? So we had our dashboards, we had all the information.
Oh, okay. You mean when you have the full node and run it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But you don't know who the transactions are from. That's the thing that makes it private, opposite to the Bitcoin blockchain. Yeah. Exactly.
You don't know who, you don't know why. It's just we just see the Bitcoin moving back and forth, and that's all you can see. So it's interesting, and that's the other part of it, right? Because that type of data is necessary to scale up a monetary network. If you're not able to take out data in a productive way, you're not able to show that it works. So I think that's one of the cool aspects of it, and just like went deeper into that rabbit hole. And I think the Lightning Network, we're just really seeing the tip of the iceberg. I mean, for us at Ibex, Bitcoin Lightning is like the email to the internet. This is really what's going to push adoption, and it's magical to see it happen and scale that fast.
Yeah, I think it makes Bitcoin really usable. I mean, it's much easier, to send, as you said, small amounts to almost really no cost. I mean, it's smaller than a euro cent, the cost. Yeah, I mean, you can't even explain how small the cost is.
Yeah,
and
Sorry.
And I see, I see a lot of new applications on the Lightning Network coming. It's not only payments; it's also, the podcasters can get streaming sats to them, or you can pay YouTubers for their work, and that's also something that's globally possible without permission of anyone. And that's the fantastic thing, and that's, I think, what so many people don't get yet.
Yeah. For New Year's, I was in El Salvador at a beach with my family and some friends. And there's this one friend I've talked to about, and, back and forth and stuff. And we were on a boat fishing. And the driver of the boat, I don't know, for some reason, he needed $2. I was like, look, I'm going to show you this works. I was on a boat and I said $2, and it came straight up, from my wallet of Satoshi to Chivo wallet, and it worked perfectly. And the guy was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, man.
Yeah, exactly. We had the same experience with our Uber driver. We helped him to install a wallet, and then we paid for the ride, and he was happiest as one can be, I mean, of course, other people are not interested. They don't believe that it's something good. And I mean, trust needs to be built over time. But I think, as you say, we are still very at the bottom of this exponential curve. Yeah.
Yeah. The more people speak about it, this just becomes stronger. And that's the whole thing of Metcalfe's law, right?
Exactly. And I always say, if you have positive experiences with it, then you will tell it to your friends, to your family, and they will start using it too. Yeah. And I mean, just recently in the last 2-3 weeks, Bitcoin has lost, I think, $10,000 or so in its value. I don't exactly know. But I think if people can exchange it to US dollars immediately, that doesn't matter too. Yeah. So, because that's one of the main criticisms, also the volatility. Yeah.
You haven't been long enough if you're criticizing volatility. I think it's
Exactly.
just, I don't even notice it anymore. It's just, it's exactly that. And to overcome that, you need time. And I think within a year, we're gonna notice that stronger in El Salvador, because a year is enough time for Salvadorans to say, look, I kept, $1, $2, $5 in Bitcoin, and I was, just like putting little amounts over time, and then suddenly, boom, right? So you have to get to that, and that is like the most difficult part to overcome, I think, in everybody's journey.
That's right. And what do you think are the other countries surrounding El Salvador or in Latin America that will follow with a sort of a Bitcoin law?
There's, the interesting part of Latin Americans is we're super entrepreneurial, right? And one would think it's out of a virtue, but it's really out of necessity. So here, either you're your own business and you create it and you push your own self, or it's not going to be that nice of a lifestyle you're going to have. So, I'm sorry for my dogs. They're really doing a big scandal here.
Very funny.
So there are a lot of congressmen I've seen in different jurisdictions, in Panama, I've heard, in Colombia and Brazil, that they want to be the savers. Like, they've seen the effect that is happening in El Salvador, and they've seen the trajectory of Bitcoin, and they want to be the ones, that bring the Bitcoin. There's always people that want to be heroes, right? So I think we're seeing that. Now, will it go through or not? That's a whole other level. And that's the interesting aspect of El Salvador, because he had majority in Congress. And Congress, notoriously in Latin American societies, is the most corrupt place. Like, that's where all the snakes are. So if you're going to pass a law, you have to give your fair share to everyone that supports the law. And that's just a fact. There's no way talking around this, right? So it's going to be interesting to see who pushes this. The incentive in El Salvador was clear, Chivo, right? They pushed this law and everything to be able to build Chivo. and to grow it. If the Bitcoin law wouldn't have been set in motion, Chivo wouldn't have been possible. And Chivo was only possible because through the law, they were able to overcome all the traditional financial ways that you have to, deploy financial services in your jurisdiction. So that's why the government did it. Now, in all the other ones, you don't have that type of power, that concentration of power. Imagine telling all those congressmen, yes, we're going to pass this law so that we can then create this private app, and then we can launch this, and you're going to have a share in that app. Oof. With all those, egomaniacs in there, nobody's going to be, they're not even going to decide who's going to be the CEO of that company, right? It's going to be crazy. So, although there's a lot of proposals, the only one I'm seriously seeing that are pushing is Brazil. Brazil is really pushing, and that's an interesting aspect because they're a powerhouse. That's a real powerhouse with a huge economy that moves a lot of money, and that's the interesting part I've seen about Bitcoin is the if you create a market and you grow the market, at one point the market is so strong that it can't be ignored. So that's why we also focus here in Guatemala with Ibex, and we've been growing it solely on Bitcoin, because that's where you have to be, right? Everything else is and I want to be bad about the whole all the alts. There are, I think, some interesting proposals in projects. I'm sure they're good people with good intentions, right? But the fact is, Bitcoin is the one, because whatever you're doing, that you're going to be doing it later on in Bitcoin, and then it's going to really work because it's the only decentralized network. But so the first way to create a necessity for this to be built on it is create volume, create attraction, a monetary attraction to it, and that's what really sets all the gears in motion for doing things on top of it.
Now, you have to explain to me, please, because I think I didn't really understand, or maybe it's wrong what I understood. So the Chivo wallet, there's a company behind where Congress people have shares in it?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, it's a government company. The government has shares in it. Like, the government is the owner of Chivo.
The government, but the people, like the Congress people, or the government?
Look, I don't think any congressman is the people, right? There's no way. They say they represent the people, but effectively they don't anymore. I'm not sure if they have shares or not. I'm not implying that, but what I can say, which that's how they present themselves, is they're a government company. So whoever the government is has had an interest to push this, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, understand. Thanks. So how is the name? What's the name of the Guatemalan currency?
Quetzal.
Yeah. I read that Guatemala Central Bank Vice President said the bank was studying the possibility of a local digital currency that would be called IBEXal.
I don't know. It's a terrible name. It's a terrible name. To Quetzal Digital, for example. I think that rolls better out of the tongue, but whatever. They want to do their CBDC. I have to admit, I've talked a couple of times at the Guatemalan Central Bank. I had the opportunity to present them, and we've talked about CBDCs and at some point. It's an interesting aspect. I think there's two ways to handle this. Like, there's a very obvious reason why they want to have it, right? It's just lower emission costs, and it's better control. So that's why you want to push it, and it's dangerous for the people. But on the other hand, it's difficult to say what would work better or not. Will it be good? Because I think if you create enough on and off ramps between CBDCs and Bitcoin, at least as an individual, you have a better opportunity to free yourself, because the digitalization of money, it's already there, and it's not going to go anywhere, right? Governments are pushing there. So I think it's even more important for you to understand as a person what Bitcoin represents how you can use it and how you can protect yourself with it. Now, the interesting part of the Guatemalan Central Bank is they are really the only bank that have in Latin America that has managed to stay out of hyperinflation. We are the only Latin American country without hyperinflation. And that makes it very difficult to, do the case for inflation and why you should, go into Bitcoin. But and they're very proud of it. And I think as a Guatemalan, I'm proud of that as well. I think they did a great job in the 80s and the 90s to separate politics from the central bank, and they protected the economy for that. And that is one of the main reasons our industry has thrived that much, because we haven't suffered hyperinflation. Now all of this is relative, right? And one of the great things they like to say is that they're one of the 3 most stable currencies in the world, like it's that. But stable is like stable pegged to the dollar. So yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's still money that's built on debt, so it's not positive money like Bitcoin. It's still debt money.
Yeah. But it has its good things, and right now, for example, how we do the speech, or how I do the speech when I talk to Guatemalan entrepreneurs and industry leaders is, look, how much do you trust your government, right? Simple as that. How much do you think we will be able to withhold to stand as a country, as the only Latin American country without hyperinflation? I mean, and nobody trusts the government. The act that since many governments ago, the distrust is really there. It's very strong. It's very obvious. So that's where it just makes click, and they say, okay, tell me more about this. And we're seeing that effect, and the market is growing. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And are there Bitcoin meetups and things like that? Bitcoin communities in Guatemala? I've heard from Bitcoin Lake.
Yeah, there's Bitcoin Lake. We just had a Twitter space there, and we talked with I forgot his name right now. Don't want to say his wrong name. Wait a second. But we talked with him, James, and it's interesting. Bitcoin Lake in itself is just, it has a lot of things. It sounds very nice. It has a lot of things that are very interesting. For us, it's kind of difficult to push it and be too active in there because of the fact that I mentioned you before. We're not able to receive cash, and the lake is predominantly a cash economy. So our services are rather limited there. But it's important to do this. And as I said before, the necessity is really there from the bottom of the pyramid, but somebody has to take the response, or just, that huge task of explaining. And I think they're doing that, and that's the super interesting part of it. And at some point, I'm sure we're going to meet and we'll be able to push more. We are pushing as much as we can, but very relative, right? Not as active as we would like, that's for sure. But at one point, they will be able.
Yeah, cool. And Ibex is a place where people can exchange money, like from their bank account or credit cards to Bitcoin?
Not credit cards. We only take deposits, ATM deposits. So we're very modeled like Swan in the US. So
okay, can you explain a little bit for people who are not familiar?
Okay, sure. So first and foremost, we do not encourage you to sell your Bitcoin. Like literally, if you sell, our instructions to our agents is to discourage the sell of your Bitcoin and actively explain why you shouldn't sell your Bitcoin. We've managed that a lot. And we have 2 services. So we have a web app where you can do it all by yourself for amounts under $5,000. And then we have this WhatsApp chat where you have a sales agent, which is, I think, very interesting, also dynamic. Here, people want to talk to someone, to a real person. They want somebody to explain it to them, to say hi, how's it going, how's the price. There's different type of customers, but in general, the Guatemalan or the Latin American likes to speak to a person when they're doing something important, and this is money, so it is important. And we've given it that importance, and I think that's why we've grown so much. So you talk to a real agent, you do the whole KYC process and all that, and then you just deposit to our bank account, and we send within an hour the Bitcoin to your wallet, which is your wallet. So the interesting part is our agents explain to you how to self-custody, and our web app is geared totally on buy your Bitcoin here and then take it out and send it to your own wallet.
Great. Yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, super. And where can people find Ibex? Like, you don't have a brick and mortar place.
We do have an office. But it's not like people, certain type of VIP customers get to go to the office. But yeah, we do have an office where we have our sales agents and we have our programmers. But other than that, really, for example, I work from home. We have other people that work from Peña and from far away. Our team has grown internationally. But it's not like you go to a place and we encourage, it's all over WhatsApp. So IBEXmercado.com is the website. I have it here. And and there you have all our services, which I think, the Bitcoin brokerage service is our biggest one to date, just because it's the oldest. But Ibex Pay has grown so much, and I think for me right now it's the most exciting one, because we open that service worldwide. So you can go to our website and just put your name, your email, your on-chain address, and one day later you get an email, and you can go into your own website, and then you can do your own Bitcoin payment terminal, what we call. So you can receive Bitcoin payments in Lightning. Everybody in the world. If you keep it 100% Bitcoin, anybody in the world can do it.
So it's you don't take a fee?
Yeah, we take a fee. It's minor,
It's for the service. Yeah.
For the service and the platform, you get an Excel sheet. You can do your cash outs. So it allows you to do all the bookkeeping in a way that as a business you're used to. And the fee is 0.7%. So
Okay, yeah, that's really not much. If you think about the fact that how much does Visa take? 3.5 or 5%? Yeah. I don't know. Or PayPal, yeah. So
it varies. Yeah, so it really is nothing, and that's what the Internet of Money allows you to do. Services around this that really are going close to zero.
Exactly. Awesome. So last question. What do you think, what are you missing in the public discourse about Bitcoin? Or what annoys you in the public discourse?
There's many annoying things, but I'm a very positive person. So I always focus on where the opportunities. And I think people in general will always take the more annoying things because that's just easier to say. So one of the things that is the whole volatility thing. Oh, it's too volatile, and that's why. It's like, dude, you're not getting it. It's not about. It's like, it is volatile undeniably, but you just look at the big picture, right? And it's the price at which you buy Bitcoin is completely irrelevant. It's not important at all. The only thing that matters is how much time you're in this, and that's what's going to determine your success, if you want to measure it, for a lack of word. But in general, I think it's just hold your Bitcoin and never sell. That's the whole point of this, right? Being able to own a piece of the technology, which right now 10% of society on a global scale is, I'm exaggerating here probably, is understanding. And in the next 10 years, 90% will be using. So as Latin Americans, we've never had that opportunity to participate in a technology with such exponential growth ahead of it. So I think it's very important to understand that. That's what I advocate always. And when you just, but it is annoying. Like if there's annoying, it's the volatility part that's annoying.
Okay, thank you very much. People, not people, Esteban, what's your Twitter handle? Where can people find you and follow you?
Thanks. My Twitter is Yengmo. It's written YENGMO. It's my digital alias. I've had it since, I don't know, 1998 or something like that. with my first email, which I still have, which is funny. And I grew. But then, at one point you come out public, you can see my face. So,
and you're still Yang Mo.
I'm still Yang Mo, yeah. People call me, some people call
some
me
things
Yang
don't
Mo.
change. Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you very much for this interesting discussion, and your thoughts on El Salvador and Guatemala, very interesting. And maybe I come visit this year if COVID allows.
Oh, please, you're more than welcome. You have your house.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That's it. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please recommend this show to your friends and subscribe to it on YouTube and in your podcast app. See you next week, or maybe in 2 weeks, when it's time for the Anita Posch Show